John in Raleigh, North Carolina. You say you are part of the 1%, John. I see that the 1% here, I'm looking at this study, that while the average American, 81% of Americans say the government's top priority should be protecting the jobs of American workers, only 29% of the top 1% say that. You say you're part of the 1%. Where do you fall on that?
Yeah, let me explain why I called initially. When you throw that loosely 1%, I probably make a little bit under $400,000. I don't have the big CPAs and all the shelters that a lot of individuals have. So I probably paid. I think last year we paid close to about $95,000 in taxes.
Right. So you're, in other words, you're earning your money as opposed to like Mitt Romney and Paris Hilton, who quote, earn their money by sitting on their butts around the pool waiting for the dividend check to arrive.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue about Romney's behalf. I'm arguing about a professional like myself. And I have 4 kids, and I don't feel rich. When the economy got bad and we got in trouble, they were going to take my house just like they were going to take the $30,000 guy's house.
Yeah. And
both myself and my wife were in the healthcare. Our salaries are going down. We could probably have anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 in loans, which is very tough when we're dealing with Sally Mae. We get no help in that area. So when you throw that number around, people assume that we're rich, and we're just the opposite of that. And I'm not trying to offend the Republicans, but when you say that, you've got to understand.
John, there are people listening to this show right now who are living on $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year, and seriously struggling to get by. Who have to be listening to you going, give me a break.
Let me stop you there, Tom. Let me stop you there because I have to say something about this. I lived in a 900 square foot a building with 4 relatives, and we made it work. My mom's sisters and brothers had a hard time, but they made it work. And I'm not saying everybody can do that, but to dismiss that and say, "Oh, now that you made it."
What I'm saying, John, is if you're making $400,000 a year and you've got $200,000 in student loans, you shouldn't have bought that $500,000 house. You should be living in a $100,000 house and pay off your loans first.
How do you know that's not the case, Tom?
Well, you just said you haven't paid off your loans. You have debt. If you're making $400,000 a year and you got $200,000 in debt, and you're literally spending $400,000 a year out of, or $300,000 after taxes, if you're taking home $300,000 and
let me go back and explain that. I had our kids in regular school; they were getting threatened. So the extra little money that we made, we decided to put them in private school. You make it seem that's the difference between you guys and the right and the huge left. You make it seem so black and white for everybody, and it's just amazing.
John, I congratulate you and I honor you for making $400,000 a year or close to it, or $300,000 after taxes, and actually paying your taxes and working hard and having gone to college to get at the kind of degree that gets you into the kind of profession where you can make that kind of money. I think our brain surgeons and our rocket scientists and our engineers who are making that kind of money deserve it. I got no problem with that. What I'm saying is, and I understand that a lot of people making that kind of money don't think of themselves as rich, and in many parts of this country, you really do have to make, certainly in parts of New York City, parts of Washington D.C., San Francisco. I mean, we've got some very expensive cities, and if you want to live where you work, and particularly if you want your kids to go to a private school, you're going to have to be making a couple $100,000 a year, and that doesn't make people rich in my mind. I'm not suggesting that. What I am pointing out is this study, and you may be the guy who is the exception that proves the rule, and that's why I asked you the question, is this study of the 1% found that if you say, for example, do you favor here's a question. Here's an actual question from the study. Do you favor national health insurance, which would be financed by tax money, paying for most forms of health care? 61% of Americans, general public, say yes. Only 32% of the top 1% say yes. What would you say?
And that's not black and white. And the reason why is because me and my wife, we service the lower community. But if I bill to Medicare and insurance companies, because they're both very tough, they pay me half of what I'm billing for. And it's like, I can't win. If I bill you $1 and the insurance pays 50, and then Medicare says, well, since the insurance pays 50, we're going to pay you 35 of that too. I'm like,
okay, so let's say that you're voting with the top 1% on this. Here's another one. Most U.S. companies more U.S. companies should be setting up operations overseas. Only 23% of Americans say yes. 73% of the top 1% say yes. What say you?
I would say I'm 100% invested in the American worker.
Okay, so you say no. So you're with the average American worker. We should increase our trade relations with China. 30% of Americans say yes. 69% of the top 1% say yes. So I'm guessing you're with the average American on that.
I'm always going to support the average American worker, no matter what. But that's not black and white, because the top 1% has incentivized cheap labor. Yeah. The top 1% turns a blind eye to immigration and allows for cheap labor to come over. There's a lot. Everybody's kind of getting paid except for the middle guy here.
Yeah.
And nobody really wants to really kind of dive in and figure out what real problems are.
Well, I don't think you're wrong on that. And in fact, I wrote a chapter about that, my book, Rebooting the American Dream. But my point, and perhaps a middle ground where you and I can meet, is that we should agree that instead of talking about the 1%, we need to be talking about the 100th of 1%, people who earn over $1 million a year, who are sitting around and complaining about the state of things.
Look, I would say that please stop using that term loosely, because there's a lot of us engineers, physicians, that are having a difficult time trying to figure out how we're navigating through all the different changes. And we're never the guy included at the table. We're the worker bee. Yeah. So there's got to be something that challenges or basically comes to us to direct and gets our input in the different crises, especially healthcare. Physicians got left out of that one completely. Yeah. And now they're getting shot at both sides, from the patient and then from the actual
no, and this is because this is how Bill Frist's father made $4 billion. Was before Reagan, virtually every state in the United States required hospitals to be not-for-profit corporations and health insurance companies to be not-for-profit corporations. And then Reagan, started this whole meme of that's a bad idea. And, by the time we were in the mid-'90s, virtually every state had undone those laws, and Bill Frist bought up all these county hospitals and small insurance companies, small non-for-profit insurance companies, flipped them for profit and made $4 billion, and then got prosecuted for massive Medicare fraud. But somehow people forget that. John, thank you for your call. We'll be back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
I got no problem with somebody who spends 12 years in medical school being well paid. No problem at all. But a bankster running an insurance company? Come on.